I would like to just remind for our audience that your topic will be best practices of social selling in this 2021 and communication challenges entering the US and UK markets on LinkedIn, because I think this is very interesting because this is a Russian company which goes to different markets, to other markets. So please start.
Of course, thank you so much. Let me just share my screen and then we can begin. All right. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, awesome. Yes, so thank you once again for the introduction. So my name is Elizabeth and I'm with YouScan. And YouScan is the leading social listening platform for visual insights. So what we do, we help brands and agencies worldwide. We work with over 500 different brands and agencies using kind of artificial intelligence. And we help them to increase their sales and get some customer insights, which means that the companies get to, get connected with their customers and therefore provide better services as well. So what I really wanted to focus on today is social selling, because personally I work with the European, UK and American markets, and I get around 80% of the SQLs, so sales qualified leads, from LinkedIn itself. So let me begin from kind of the very basics. So according to some research, 91% of all the B2B buyers are now involved in social media. And by involved, I mean that they're actively posting, commenting, and they just have it kind of on their hands all the time. Moreover, 84% of senior execs use social media to support purchase decisions. So this also proves that social media awareness is very important in 2021. 75% of buyers are influenced by social media, and I think we already know this, because we're all seeing those kind of posts on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc., kind of commenting on various services and people giving their opinions. So it's really vital to look out for these. However, what I wanted to point out here, that it's not just a shift in the B2B buying process that has changed, but the age of the B2B buyers and decision makers has changed as well. So we actually found out that the majority of the decision makers in the B2B market, so their ages between 28 and 34 now. So as you can imagine, they're really, really active on social media as well. So it's been estimated that in literally 7 years' time, 80% of B2B interactions between buyers and suppliers will happen in digital channels. So therefore, it is really important to kind of get your social selling game on now. And I really wanted to focus on sort of the difference between social selling and social spamming, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who is facing a lot of emails on LinkedIn and sort of different messages from random people offering me services and different packages, introducing me to different companies that I have absolutely no interest in. So here are some of the best and worst practices from YouScan. So let's talk about authentic versus automated messages on LinkedIn. And you can see here, that's sort of the GIF we came out with. It works pretty well when I'm using it, just to make sure that people know I'm a real person. I'm not just like some robot. And this is sort of an intro to beginning a relevant conversation. So it should be really evident in the first couple of like sentences of your message on social media that you've really taken the time to, you know, do your research, get to know something about the person you're reaching out to. And this way, they're likely to read a little further to see what comes next. And what I mean by that, just from the personal experience, I like to sort of look at maybe the company they work at, maybe look at the website, perhaps even look at, you know, where they studied or what they're interested in, what groups are they part of. And this way, I can really kind of find a connection there. So if I may, let me just provide you with a quick example. It actually happened this morning. So it's sort of relevant. So I was speaking to someone, I was trying to reach out, and I've noticed that they studied at Loughborough University, which is one of the British universities. And myself, I studied in Exeter, did my bachelor's and master's there. So I've mentioned in my message to them that, you know, I used to play them like every month. I used to play lacrosse with Loughborough University team. So I was like, oh my gosh, we might have actually like seen each other if you're a lacrosse fan. And they responded maybe like 10 minutes later being like, oh my gosh, like I don't like lacrosse, I'm a rugby guy, but happy to connect. So see, like even from like the very beginning of your conversation with someone, it's really important to kind of outline that you're a human and you're there to bring them some value, to build a fruitful relationship with them. On the other hand, yeah, it's, you know, usually considered to be a spam message when you're literally just putting someone in receipt of a bulk messages, even though, you know, you might use their name and stuff. So the logic here is that personalization nowadays is certainly a key. I also wanted to take just a couple of minutes to chat about LinkedIn emails. And I'm not sure if you guys are using LinkedIn Sales Navigator or emails at all, if it's sort of something that, you know, you regularly do on a daily basis. However, I find that, you know, I get loads of emails with absolutely irrelevant stuff, and, you know, I might end up like blocking someone if they're like constantly messaging me with those like huge kind of texts. So I feel that emails are best used wisely, because basically you want to make sure that the person who's going to be reading them actually get some value out of a lengthy message. So it's sort of pretty self-explanatory. It's just that I've noticed that some people use emails purely to sort of boost up kind of their prospects. This is one of my favorite parts, and I wanted to chat about engaging versus bragging differences. So when we're talking about social media, it's really important to really bring the value, as I mentioned previously. So it is important to, you know, do your posts, engage with the audience, kind of find the audience that would be interested in what you're doing. However, it is important to always sort of have the mission of bringing the value to the people in mind. And what I wanted to outline here is that personally, I've noticed so many times that sometimes people, perhaps with the best intentions in head, they actually end up sort of bragging about what they're doing. So just a quick example here as well. Imagine you're seeing a post of someone literally being like, so I work at, you know, ABC company, and we are literally the best in the field. We provide the very best service. We have the coolest office. You should come to us because we have the best staff ever. We have the best platforms in the world. Like, look how cool we are. How would that make you feel? Like, I feel that, you know, oh, something sounds dodgy here. Whereas if you were to, you know, share some insights, share some use cases that might feel a bit more personal, and people might actually end up kind of reading into it and, you know, appreciating that you're sharing your experience with them. And then to really kind of one of the most exciting parts of what I wanted to chat to you about today. So social media posting. So there is a huge difference between, you know, posting too much or not posting enough. And basically, posting too much can lead to you tiring your audience out, to people getting kind of fed up, you know, too much content, too much info overload, because you can imagine, you know, we're all in the same boat here. We live, you know, highly articulate lives. We all are kind of on our phones 24/7. So it's important to have this balance when it comes to posting. As well as, you know, being completely silent on social media is not good for anyone in kind of the industry, purely because, you know, you're not really putting yourself out there. So it's important to stay active. So how often should you post? And I wonder, how often do you guys post? If you could maybe comment or just write down, like, how regularly do you tend to post on either, you know, your private social media or, you know, your company's social. It'd be really interesting to find out. I mean, personally with YouScan, I tend to post on LinkedIn 2-3 times a week, which I think is ideal. So I do sort of 2 short reads, so just, you know, maybe 2-3 sentences with a little insight from the system, and maybe 1 long read, could be, you know, about office life or my personal life as well. If we're talking about what to post, once again, it depends on your industry. So I tend to post social insights. I tend to post some system updates, something that really, really excites me as well. And for example, it would be a bit different on Instagram, for example. I tend to post more often there. But obviously LinkedIn is a bit more professional, whereas on Instagram, I don't just do the business stuff. I add my hobbies, such as running or any other social activities. On LinkedIn, however, we also have kind of the stories. And that's what I was also wondering, guys. Do you use LinkedIn stories at all? And if so, what do you tend to kind of, what sort of content do you post? Because my content is usually just our life from the office. I mean, I can also post, I don't know if you can see, but we also have Aina, who's like a YouScan social listening champ. So I post her quite a lot. So that's the sort of stuff I post just to, keep it active. And basically, from all the social selling, I feel that it really pays off because 80% of all my sales qualified leads currently comes from social selling, as I mentioned previously. So we also do have other activities. However, the majority of the results does come from the social selling. And the other exciting part I wanted to chat about, and I think the speaker before me, Pier, sort of touched up on this in regards to Germany. But I also wanted to mention the communication challenges. And, I mainly look at the United Kingdom and the United States. And I mean, naturally, I feel that there's a huge kind of gap there. Personally, I mean, I grew up in the UK, boarding school, uni, and right now I live in Russia. My parents are Russian, and obviously I'm situated in Russia, Moscow right now. But in the business area, I do work with the British and American clients. So these are just a few sort of differences that I've noticed. First one that I wanted to talk about is the importance of the small talk. And that's actually not a difference, but rather a similarity. And small talk is very important. And I feel that, it should really be like natural, like a natural act. So I'm sure that you guys are all experts in this and you know how to kind of start off any conversation with any person. And I feel that, we should always remember the importance of kind of, having this balance. And that's why it is important. When working with the UK and the US leads, I've also found that it's important to keep in mind the work habits. So it's not just the time difference that sets these two apart, but it's also kind of how they like to go around their work. So for the British people, I know that it's sort of, they have their timetable, everything's very scheduled. I know I'm like that personally. I have everything in my planner. I've got like literally everything planned. I know when and what is going to happen. Whereas in America, they work a lot. So I've had calls with like people from New York, and it would be literally 6:30 a.m. their time, and they're really happy with it. They're like, yeah, we start working at like 5 because that's when the market is like starting to rise, etc. So they're really, really hard workers, which is incredible. And regarding the work habits, I've also noticed a little thing here, and I actually wanted to ask your guys' opinion on this. So I find it that with British people, it's sort of really challenging to schedule, for instance, a proper discovery call. However, once it's scheduled, they're really likely to really listen to you, and you're likely to get the follow-up steps, and the process is going to be smooth overall. With the American folks, however, really, really easy to schedule a phone call or a discovery call or a Zoom call, but the kind of follow-up steps are not so clear. So they're really happy to kind of connect with you because they're really open-minded. However, it doesn't mean that they have like serious intentions. So just wondering if you could maybe share your personal experiences. It'd be really interesting to find out. Another thing I wanted to mention is sort of the different approaches that I've noticed regarding the self-presentation. So I felt that the American leads tend to really appreciate the self-promotion. So, you know, it's really great when chatting to the American leads to say that, you know, you're a leader in the industry, and just mention like all your awards, which is like true, you actually have gotten these awards, but they will, you know, they will actually listen to, and they'll be like, wow, that's impressive, like, you know, gold star student there. Whereas I tend to naturally be more reserved around the, you know, British people, because I know that, you know, they probably would think like, oh my gosh, like, chill out. So I feel like with the UK people, it's better to minimize the kind of the boastfulness. And the last thing I wanted to touch up on is the unspoken cues. And this is, I think, the speaker before me, Pierre, also mentioned this, you know, with the German language, but you really have to kind of understand kind of the various differences, the cultural differences, the different mentality there is there. So I know that, for example, if I'm talking to, you know, someone from the US, they would be really straightforward. They would literally tell me what they think. And, you know, sometimes I get like, I start thinking, oh my gosh, like they're so like on it. They might come across as being a little bit rude, but that's because I'm used to the like UK sort of conversations where, you know, you don't really say like, I don't want to say like rude stuff, but you're not really straightforward as much. So for instance, I know that if someone, if you're talking to a British person and, you know, you're emailing them back and forth, and if they suddenly start switching from, I mean, I do it all the time, guilty as charged, but if they start suddenly to switch from kind regards to best regards to then regards, like, you're in trouble, like stop emailing them. And it's the same thing, you know, if I know personally, if I tell someone, if someone's asking me a question and I'm just like, fine, like I'm really not fine. And that's just a little insight that I know we should all be mindful of when chatting to kind of the international companies. So guys, just really wanted to thank you one more time for your time. And yes, feel free to email me. You've got my email on the screen if you want to connect, or obviously I would be happy to you know, introduce you to YouScan, because we're all kind of members of the same community here. And I would be happy to connect with you all on LinkedIn as well, so we can network. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And you just shared some interesting insights about working with US and UK audience. Thank you for that. And actually, I have a question, and maybe some other participants are going to ask some questions. Please free to do it. My first question is about what kind of companies you add to connections on LinkedIn and you reach out to on LinkedIn. I mean, are they potential customers or partners, or what kind of companies are these?
Yeah, great question. So actually, even when I first came to YouScan, I think my LinkedIn was like really active. So I already had like over 1.5K connections, and these would be just my personal connections. So, you know, from all the industries really. I mean, I used to be really into journalism and radio. So this is the sort of spheres I used to have connections with. However, right now with YouScan, I do add kind of people from our ICP, so ideal customer profile, and these would be kind of marketing, PR professionals or insights professionals from various industries, you know, who can benefit from a social listening tool. So that would literally be, you know, retail, you know, consumer goods, etc., banks, pharmaceuticals. So really a lot of industries there.
And maybe you notice the difference between industries or positions, how they react on LinkedIn. Have you noticed something like this?
Certainly, yeah, that's very interesting, because I feel that in the international market, say, you know, guys that work in the pharma industry, they tend to be more, I want to say, like uptight. So they tend to be kind of more into like really businessy side of things. They don't tend to kind of network as easily. However, people that work in agencies, for example, they're always really active, really happy to find out about new stuff. You know, they're just really happy to connect and network.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Thank you so much. And I can see in the chat that we don't have more questions. So if someone else is going to ask questions, feel free to reach out to Elizabeth on LinkedIn or somewhere else to share her contacts. Thank you so much.